Who else is feeling completely drained from yesterday? Same exact energy today. We have a full moon lunar eclipse. We have a massive G4 geomagnetic storm. We have more levels coming in today. So our geomagnetic storm levels will continue today, causing confusion and fatigue and anxious and overwhelming feelings. Just a lot going on energetically. Schumann resonance is finally starting to pick up, throwing us some light. Before we get into the massive geomagnetic storm, let's talk about the astrological alignments that are going to fuck with you. So early in the morning, we have had our full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra. We are coming down from a very high cosmic storm. It's going to have us emotionally all over the place, like all over the place. Like I said, there's a lot of confusion. Triggers are going to be prominent, a lot of emotion. So emotions are going to start coming to the front today. And you might not have the best words to describe exactly how you're feeling. So I wouldn't get into too many big conversations, but we need to strike balance between these two, between our heart and our head, because we can get if you're too emotional, you can't think of your logical side. It's like the left and the right brain hemisphere, whatever. But still, we need to strike balance with this Libra energy today. So it's like peeling back layers. It's about complex emotions yet again, epiphanies, especially within relationships, where you know what you want and you know what your desires, but you're also realizing where your needs are not necessarily being met. And yet again, to start off the morning, and probably yesterday as well, there's this anxious energy, not only because the frequencies are a lot higher, that also has to do with it, but the amount of energy within our planets today, it's very overwhelming. It can be confusing. There could be a lot of clarity. There can be misconceptions with things, but it's revealing a lot more information where we didn't exactly have that information, right? Because we're shifting into higher frequencies, into higher dimensional planes. So new details are going to start forming once you gain that bounce and start realigning. Today is all about realignment and balance. Try to balance between the high energies. Yes, it's hard. Is it easy? No, it's not. Do we want to take a nap? For weeks we do. So yesterday we had a severe G4 geomagnetic storm, sent us into KP8 and higher ranges for our KP solar wind levels. So the amount of plasma and protons that were coming in were too much for our magnetic field. So we got to see amazing auroras, and there was a lot of energy, and it put a lot of people to sleep, and it caused a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion. So yet again, these are very physical things that you can feel. This is why I report on it, because it's important. So we had some elevated solar winds right prior to our interplanetary shock. We were around 500 kilometers per second, and we jumped straight into those KP6 levels around 700 kilometers per second, straight into KP8. So that was 800 kilometers per second right out of the bat, and it continued for a while. It was very persistent, so we had a very long duration of high energy that was streaming into our planet. We are still currently around 800 kilometers per second, a little bit lower, obviously, as you can see, but we're right in that range, still very, very persistent in this. So we had our interplanetary shock right about this area right here, where it dramatically increased from that coronal mass ejection from our X-class flare that left on the 23rd. Our BZ was primarily northward, so about the whole time it stayed in the northward position. Our density was not too much. We're only at a 3 right now, but we did dip into some 15, 20 ranges with a density. Density will pick up today. Velocity will still pretty much be persistent today, but we're going to see a lot more energy throughout the whole day. Hang on, guys. I know it's hard when we have long durations of days full of lots of energy. And currently we are at KP4 levels, so we are at that active warning line, pretty much staying at that level. Today is Monday. Hello, Monday. So our max today is a KP7. Remember, our max yesterday was only supposed to be a KP6. It went to KP8. Liars. Okay, anyway, we can't predict these things anyway, so be gracious. But KP7s are expected today, 6 or higher, depending on what graph that you are looking at. But we are kind of steady right now, very low dip, but we will be seeing an increase later in the day today. Our solar proton flux was at S2, which is moderate storm level. So solar protons hold a lot of mass. So whenever mass enters our system, it's heavy on our physical bodies, causing confusion, clarity issues, things like that, body issues, body aches. But it was very persistent. As you can see, it stayed for a very long time. And we have dipped down into S1 solar radiation storm levels. We are expected to decrease. And you can see that we slowly are starting to decrease there. And it's supposed to die down around the 27th. But we do have one very active region, 25% chance of having an X-class flare from. But we're still hanging on to these solar radiation storm levels today as well. So yesterday we had 17 M-class flares, 17. Oh my God, my phone just kept going off and off and off. Anyway, so 3615, definitely obviously the culprit of all of the solar flares. Basically all of them yesterday were from this region. It is still highly magnetically complex. It's still in beta, delta, and gamma range, and we have a 25% chance of having an X-class flare specifically from this region. Now we did already have an M4 today that sent us into an R1 radial blackout, which is continuously pulsing. It has died down, but the absorption not too high. We do still, these are our proton levels, so we are still surrounded by these high proton levels today. Yet again, still in an S1 solar radiation storm. But here's our sun today. So the biggest culprit, 3615. This is the one that has a 25% chance of having an X-class flare. If you have solar eclipse glasses, put them on, look outside. If the sun is out, you can see the sunspot. You can literally see this. You can actually see it on your phone. But I think it's really cool if you see it with the glasses. It's not so hard, and you can just, whatever. Anyway, so let's look at this region. The other ones are pretty stable. We are going to take a little glance at 3614, which this is 3614. So down in size, down in percentages. It lost a lot of its components right here. This is no longer a threat. This gave us the X-class flare. This one is no longer a threat though, however. This one is a threat. Notice the amount of sunspots. It went up by 9, went up by size as well, still remaining its delta component. Very complex. It is fluctuating quite a bit. Proton level from this, which is why we have solar radiation storms, because of the proton levels of all the M-class flares. 17 M-class flares. So proton levels are high with this region. So expect to still stay in those radiation storms. We can't expect to see a lot more from this, especially if we do have that X-class flare, which we have a high percentage of having. M-class flares we're getting, C-class flares, that's a given. But this region is just out of this world. Still Earth facing. We can have an X-class flare at any moment now. It's just building up right now. And here are our coronal holes. So this is like a streaming hole that goes to like straight to Earth. It's like a connection where all of the plasma can travel through basically at very high speeds. And notice that it's surrounded by them in a triangular shape. This is our region, active region 3615. Here we have coronal hole number 12 listed right over here next to it. It has went down in a little bit of size, but still right next to it. And we have other ones that have formed within the past 24 hours. Now, geomagnetic storm levels on this chart say KP6 or higher. The other chart says 7. Doesn't matter. They're going to be high. High latitude, you'll be able to see some auroras. Mid latitude, maybe. If you guys saw auroras, please tag me. I want to know all about it. But we can expect to hit those G2 geomagnetic storm levels today. Tomorrow it will die down. We will still be in geostorm levels, and by the 27th it should be completely quiet. But we are going to get hit with the CME today and tomorrow. Make sure you're hydrating. It is very important that you hydrate. The pressure is going to be intense. You're going to feel confused. If you hydrate, it helps with those symptoms. And we're getting spikes in our Schumann to help with that balance. So our amplitude, 47% is up. We have a lot of light coming in. And the Schumann is finally catching up to that. So very exciting. Lots of density. Hydrate today. So are you ready for the full moon today? Are you ready for the geomagnetic storms today? Are you ready for any of the energy today? So remember, balance yourself, ground yourself, hydrate yourself. Love ya.